Hot mics are hot now. Okay, guys,
Okay.
we are back. We had some technical difficulties. Please forgive us. We were discussing some sensitive topics surrounding Bill Gates, and we have a Windows operating system.
Yeah.
They must have caught word.
Jerome Powell called to hit in on us. He didn't like that we were crashing the party at his new palace. The plebs aren't allowed to go to the $2.3 billion palace. Wow. So I guess we'll kick it back off again. I guess we'll just run this back. We're talking about Jerome Powell's $2.3 billion palace that he wants to build for the Fed and how out of touch with reality that is for the average man, right? You can see this communist-style board wanting to literally set the rate of money, and essentially they need a $2.3 billion palace to decide what the interest rate should be, apparently, and to house all of the fiat cantillionaires that work there. What do you got? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's absolutely wild, and this is part of the problem when you have a couple of decision makers deciding how to spend money. They make decisions, and I think, in the grand scheme of things too, it becomes really easy to spend money when you're talking about budgets that are in the trillions of dollars. Then it becomes like, oh, what's $2.3 billion? But when you put this in the context of like what the average American makes, it's like, how much are we spending? Like, this is absurd.
Like, what is wrong with these people?
So I think
it's not like they don't already have a building.
People in DC, I think, need to step away a little bit from looking at these massive budgets and sort of touch back and actually go and talk to the average American. And I think they'd be, you know, pretty blown away by that experience.
Word on the street is that Powell is considering resigning. That's what we hear from the grapevine. He's considering resigning. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think his term comes to an end very, very quickly anyway. What we had talked about previously before we got disconnected was that the whole Truflation, how Truflation is showing inflation coming down. We're well under 2% right now, and it's a leading indicator of all this stuff. And it looks like housing prices are coming down. In tariffs, haven't really, that inflation has not landed. It's actually the opposite. It looks like inflation is coming down instead of going up as what was predicted by so many that were screaming, I guess, as Trump would call them, the panic hands. That's what he's been calling anybody who's panicking, panic hands. So the panic hands have been wrong thus far. I mean, that's what the data is showing. But we'll see how it all plays out.
I mean, at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if Powell were to resign because, what is typically the case is you get a fantastic book deal if you make if you show that you have like Trump fever and just like walk away and and do a fit.
Oh, fuck yeah. They're gonna give you a great deal. If you talk shit about Trump, they're just like, here, we don't even care if it's true. They have all sorts of stories. And
Exactly.
Just like,
even if it's a month before his term ends, it's a great opportunity to basically just like ride off into the sort of the liberal sunset and be like, all right, cool. Like I get my book deals, I get my like speaker fees.
I think Trump had a funny tweet or post about about this at one point. He says, like, I don't even blame these people for taking these deals. He had said something about that. Like, signs her to whatever her name was. I met her. He's like, I met this chick one time, talked to her one time ever, didn't even know her name, and she's writing a 300-page book about me. He's like, I don't blame her for taking the money. I would take the money too.
Crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, classic.
But I think interest rates have to come down. I mean, with where the numbers are, I think it makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to have a communist style board set the price of money, you know, the data is clearly showing that inflation is coming down. The CPI has been, low. I think it's been lower than predicted, and now with Trueflation, who's really, they've nailed it. They're nailing this data like months before the government models come out. Like, they literally they've hit it within like a 0.03% margin of what they're going to predict or say. So they've been super, super close on all of the data points. And they're showing 1.66%. Paul, can you pull that up again on our, I don't know if we had it pulled up yet, or I think it was just the Trueflation data. I know we showed it before we got cut off, but we'll just run it back real quick and take a peek at it. But so there was a couple people had some takes about this. They said, and I'll reread them because they're, no, it's all the way at the top. It's pretty good. No, not that one. Sorry. Let's see. Maybe it was down a little bit. Yeah, here it is. Housing inflation suffered a big drop, 0.77% in 7 days. All inflation is falling. The Fed should be ready to cut. Access detailed inflation data on our website. So he made some tags here. But yeah, I mean, we're really seeing that, and they've been spot on. They really have. They've been absolutely spot on with Trueflation. You know, I really like that the whole project. I think they've got some good stuff. I think they're actually selling. They're starting to sell some of this data to people who want to have an edge, and I think it's, you know, the free market is coming in and saying what the government is trying to do with the CPI and all this shit. They're so far off. They're so delayed. Their models are so outdated. You know, the free market's coming in and saying, hey, we know you're full of shit. Here's a real solution. Here's the real truth. And I think they've pretty much nailed it. You know?
I mean, if you have an API with some of this information, hedge funds would love to plug this into their models.
It seems like that's what's coming here, yeah.
And basically, like, you know, have that factor into, you know, buy and sell decisions.
Yeah, it seems like that's what's coming.
Automated decisions.
A lot of decisions can be automated as well. Because again, this is a crypto platform. It's a technology that's built on blockchain, and it's open sourcing the data and stuff, and you can see it on chain, which is pretty cool, pretty cool. Paul, can you pull up the crypto broker reporting rule? We talked a little bit about this before we got cut off, but we don't know how much of it.
I guess maybe before we leave sort of interest rates, I guess the one curiosity I have is how the copper tariffs may sort of play into things. I know that Trump just put in like a 50% tariff on copper.
Coming in from outside?
Coming in from outside. Okay. And so, you know, I am curious as to whether or not that sort of pushes Powell, or at least gives him some ammunition to say, like, we're going to wait another little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you can always have that ammunition because Trump is always going to, like, Trump just put a 50% tax on Lula in Brazil. That was a whole big thing that just blew up. And I guess they're doing something crazy to all of our tech companies, trying to center us and, you know, doing all this propaganda. And they're trying to, like, arrest. This is like a huge trend across the West. And this is a sad time to be a Westerner in a lot of ways, because we've got places like Brazil that are, like, you know, trying to go after their chief political opponent. It happened in America. We saw what they tried to do to Trump. Just like, hey, your opponent's leading you in the polls, and we're going to arrest him. He's got 15 different charges coming, which was just total bullshit. We all knew it. We all saw it. Everybody knew. Unless you're, you know, truly indoctrinated and you're in that 19%, that is, like, you know, that's where the Democratic approval rating is apparently right now, 19%. So unless you're in that like little 19%, I mean, it was very clear to the independents, the moderates. People are like, oh my God, look what they're doing. Like, they tried to kill him, all these different things, right? So we're seeing that across the West. Macron, I believe, is doing this to his opponent in France right now. They're doing it to Marie Le Pen. Yeah, so she's apparently, they're trying to dig up stuff from 20 years ago and find some little financial thing to try to, like, just take her out.
She's been ousted. She can't run politically.
Yeah, they're trying to do this. I mean, that's insane. This is insane that we're having this in Western democracies. This is not a real what a democracy is. I mean, that's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, you know, we don't really have the moral high ground anymore. And, like, look what Lula's doing to Bolsonaro. I think it's his name over there right now. And Trump's just saying, no, we're not going to do this, or else you're going to suffer. So, you know, that's what it is. So we'll see if these different things, and of course, you know, Lula's now responding, I'm going to put tariffs back or whatever, but, there's beef and coffee and things that come from Brazil. So there's always going to be something. There's always going to be, if you want to find some reason, if you don't want to look at the big picture and look at one like little thing and say, oh, this is the reason we're not going to do it, you can find the cover to do that. But I think what the data is showing by and large, if you really look and, at the big picture, inflation is coming down, because inflation, we had seen so much inflation for so long that now like the pace of that is starting to be reduced, which we're seeing in the data. So, if Powell is actually following the data, if the Fed is actually following the data, just like they said that inflation was transitory and all the money printing wouldn't do anything, they were way behind the 8 ball, right? So if you're an Austrian economist, you would just laughing. Clearly, you knew they were wrong, and now the same exact thing is happening. It's like, hey, and again, if inflation, Powell doesn't want to be known as Arthur Burns, who had all this inflation back in the 70s, 80s, or whatever. He wants to be the what's the guy's name? Volcker. He wants to be like Volcker. So he doesn't want to make this mistake where he lowers and inflation comes back. But looking at all the data with the deregulation and everything that's happening, I think that I'm surprised that inflation is as low as it is, honestly. It's too bad Craig wasn't here today because he had some interesting takes about how Trump is doing this like gangster capitalism or whatever, where he like goes to the CEOs of different. Maybe you can pull up this post. See if you can find Craig's post about this. I was like, I thought it was an interesting post. I don't know if I agree with it all, but I thought it was an interesting post. He basically had talked about Trump basically coming in. No, it was like a longer form post, kind of about how Trump was like basically talking to the CEOs of Costco and Walmart, and like saying, "Hey, don't raise your prices."
It's further down, yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting read.
Yesterday,
it was an interesting read. I mean, I just don't think that there's so many companies and so many inputs, and I think that maybe on a couple of those companies they can kind of not make so much profit for a little bit, but I just don't think that.
I feel like that's what it takes is someone to say don't raise the prices.
Well, I mean, at some point you have to raise the prices because you're a business and you have a fiduciary duty to your investors. Despite what Trump says, it's like he's like, look, I've got a fiduciary duty. We're a publicly traded stock. We can't, it kind of doesn't really. Here it is, right there, protection racket. Trump isn't fighting inflation with traditional tools. He's managing it like a boss running a protection racket. Welcome to the boss economy. A world where prices are controlled by fear, favor, and direct intervention from the top. There's a thread. There's a whole thread about it, but I don't know if he says inflation is the linchpin of MAGA 2.0. Trump won in 2024 because people felt crushed by prices, and he promised to fix it with strength. If inflation returns, the illusion shatters, his mandate collapses. So what's the strategy? It's not Fed policy, it's behavioral enforcement. Trump pressures CEOs directly, public shaming. But there's just so many. So I don't. You can do that to a certain extent, but there's so many companies. He's not going to be able to talk to everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just there's no way to do that. It's just that a lot of companies are pivoting to domestic supply chains, or they're going to countries with lower tariffs. They're redoing their supply chains, or they're getting concessions from a lot of these countries who are making decent margins selling all this stuff because anything that's imported from China is sold at 1/20th the cost of what it actually costs. Then there's a lot of margin on both ends, and I think Trump's just saying, hey. We're going to get a little bit of a tax on this, and it's going to go into the coffers of the United States. And he's not wrong. If we look at, we can pivot over and check this out now, Paul. Go to our bookmarks. We can look at the actual data. I think we actually just ran a surplus. I think it's the top post. Before we talk about so here it says the U.S. just posted a surplus of $27 billion for the month of June. If you look at the receipts of the tariff revenue coming in, we're over 100 billion, maybe close to. I either want to say we're between at over 100 or over 300 billion. I think it's 100 and predicted to go to over 300 by the end of the year. So the question is, the CBO model didn't predict this. It's outperforming what the CBO said, which basically has been the MAGA argument back, which is hey, I think it was Caroline Levitt who was she's the speaker. She basically said there was a speech of her basically saying when people were asking her questions about, isn't this going to blow up the deficit and all these different things and the big, beautiful bill? And she was basically saying, listen, the CBO, which is supposed to be this impartial body that's independent, that is based in Washington, D.C., but they haven't had a single person who works there donate to a Republican in 25 years. So, what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that it's 99.9% of Democrats working at this independent body in Washington. Do you think they're going to do you think when they create their model, their Congressional Budget Office model, you think it's going to be favorable to what Trump's agenda is? Fuck no. They're gonna they're gonna
Yeah.
tweak it, and we're already seeing that. We're already seeing that they were wrong. Like literally within and the tariffs haven't even fully rolled out yet. Like we're just seeing like the preliminary revenue roll in from some of this stuff, and it's already outperforming their CBO estimates. And the next question is growth. Are we going to outperform growth wise? I don't know. Let's see. It seems like things are starting to tread in the right direction. We've got the tax reductions. We've got, which they'll say, hey, that's bad too because we won't take as much revenue. But if the economy grows, you actually, again, Laffer's curve. If people feel happy and they're making more money across the board and you're lifting more people out of poverty, the pie's going to be much bigger. So you can take a less % of that pie and actually make more money, this is what we've actually seen play out.
Yeah.
And there's a whole economic law behind it. Like I think it's called Laffer's curve. So, let's see what happens here. It's looking good so far. I mean, preliminary data is outperforming CBO estimates, and the tariff revenue is looking good, and it might increase more. It might come down. I mean, I guess we're going to have to see it all play out. But so far, everything seems manageable. Everything seems fine. And I think, maybe people have become the panic cans that Trump is talking about. So we'll see. But we're going to try something different, it looks like. All right, let's talk a little bit about this crypto broker reporting rule, which is a big deal. We briefly touched on it before we got disconnected earlier, but essentially what this means is that, if you're a DeFi platform or protocol, if you're running an Ethereum node or staking or doing some kind of thing where you're, acting as a decentralized component piece of a protocol, you obviously can't collect tax and personal information on people that are using that protocol. It just doesn't even make sense. It's not how the real world works. But, so this administration, the U.S. Treasury, they've scrapped this rule, which obviously didn't make any sense. This Form 1099 DA. So no more forced reporting, no more DeFi surveillance, no more digital dragnet for the IRS, which was impossible to comply with to begin with, which we talked about was a way for either A, them to basically criminalize using any kind of blockchain protocol, which has an incredibly chilling effect on the future of finance and the future of, America, really, and our piece in that, right? So there's that chilling effect. Now, this could have been done intentionally, so they could basically have basically an excuse if they don't like you or they want to go after you. They have this way they can kind of get you, which a lot of the IRS is, right? Because it's hundreds of pages of reporting and all these. There's no way anybody could even know that to begin with. So there's just, if they want to try to get you, it's like this is how they get the people this is how they got the mob, right? Like they couldn't get the mob. They didn't actually have the evidence to convict the mob. So what they did was they're like, we're going to go after you for taxes and do it that way, right? Because it was just a way to
They find the one scapegoat. They put all these rules and regulations, even though maybe there's hundreds of people who are,
Exactly.
taking advantage. They find the one guy, and then they basically crucify that one person so that no one else does anything.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So there's that aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it is they're just too stupid to actually understand that, a protocol can't report on people and do this stuff. If it's a decentralized protocol, it can't do that, right? So there's that aspect of it. Whichever one was the actual truth, they're both equally as bad, which is what I said before. So it's nice to see we have competent officials that can actually read and understand things and know that, okay, this doesn't make sense and this is going to push innovation offshore, scare developers away, scare people away who are just deploying code and protocols to, and then they walk away from it. And it just runs autonomously based off of the code and mathematics of the protocol. So it's nice to see that this rule has finally been repealed. So it's another win for Bessent and the current U.S. Treasury. So love to see it.
I mean, if we want to make the United States the crypto capital of the world, I think we need to make sure that we are leading the charge in terms of not sort of saddling on responsibilities for small startups to start to rack up legal bills to make sure that every sort of box is checked.
Of course,
this is crossed.
It's an example of cronyism. It's an example of crony capitalism where the incumbents make these crazy regulations and rules to try to squeeze out any innovation, any competition, right? I mean, that's not real capitalism. That is cronyism.
I mean, there's a reason why most politicians are lawyers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, they reap the benefits of basically all of this, and then they go out and they write policy to then help the future politicians.
That was what what was the guy who made the bit license in New York? Have you ever watched Banking on Bitcoin documentary? I can't remember his name. This guy, he's such a little weasel, but he basically created it was like a brand new industry, and he created hundreds of pages of the forms you had to fill out to get this bit license. You had to have lawyers, and all the startups were like, "Are you out of your fucking mind? What the hell is this?" And then as soon as he got out of office, he created a private legal practice for himself basically to help
that.
people to
That's
extort
amazing.
to do the bit license. It was just classic. Benjamin Losky, that was his name. Quite a character.
That
Quite a
is
character.
hilarious.
He's like, yeah, now you can hire me to do this license I created to like. It was just so absurd. It was so absurd. It was just classic classic bureaucratic behavior. All right, Paul, why don't you, let's see here. We have some chats. Boston economy idea missed the mark. Where is the proof of widespread CEO threats? I don't know what that means, so I can't really respond to that. Boston economy. Let's move along. Boss economy idea. Okay, boss corrections, yeah. Missed the mark. Where's the proof of widespread CEO threats? Yeah, so I see what you're saying. Okay, boss. Yeah, I mean, Trump probably is having conversations with, I mean, that's kind of what he's done. He's got big tech. He's got these people. He has conversations with like Apple and some of these other, Tim Cook and, hey, bring your supply chain back. That's kind of how he's like, saying, hey, come back to America, bring more capital back to America. So it goes both ways, right? So there's kind of, I'm sure he said like, hey, listen, like this is my plan. We don't know. We're not privy to every conversation that happens. Like we don't have asymmetric information, right? So he's basically saying probably like, hey, this is going to be good for Americans. Here's what we're doing. This is, we're going to probably have some. We're going to figure out. We're going to negotiate with all these countries, and then we'll figure out what the rate will be. Countries that want to play ball will get a better deal, and who are willing to negotiate and want to benefit America will negotiate a better deal. But probably after a year or whatever, we're going to lock everything in, and we'll know where we're at. So I think that's what's happening, and I think that there's maybe some truth to that. What Craig said. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's a major factor. I think that we just didn't realize. I see it myself. I know how much juice there is because I import things to build things as an entrepreneur and stuff. So I know the price discrepancies where it's like if I import a widget from China for 95% less cost and I sell it, I can easily go on Amazon and not all items still, but a lot of items you can go on and you can see that are priced 20 times that cost. So to pay a 10 to 20, 30% tariff on that to bring it in, I'm still going to make a fucking racket off of it, right?
Yeah.
Now, there are other costs. There are employer costs, and there are employees, and then there's miscellaneous things you need, and there's a lot of other things in there. But if I bump up the price just a tiny bit, or I just eat the margin temporarily and increase my sales, or I lower my price to get more sales, there's some wiggle room in there. And I think if we come to that 10 to 30% range, countries that are willing to really work with us and play ball get a much lower 10%, and other countries get, a higher percent, like Canada or Brazil if they want to fuck around and find out,
I don't know if I've seen any cases, at least not recently, of Trump sort of publicly shaming, and I think that it is important to sort of set the bar here where it's liberals will go after grocery stores for being, predatory pricing. And so I don't know. I don't think that Trump has even gotten close to doing stuff like that. I mean, you hear Elizabeth Warren going after grocery stores.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mamdani is sort of pitching for government-run grocery stores.
That's really worked out well throughout human history, hasn't it?
Yeah. And so, I see where he's going with it, where I think Trump does have this kind of air to him of kind of the Don of the situation.
Yeah, I see that too.
But I would say, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough sort of public evidence for me to say, that's what's at play here.
Geiger Capital chimes in. More and more people are realizing that the old Dem/Republican parties are both dead. Moving forward, it's nationalism versus communism. Stephen Miller versus Zoran Mamdani. Choose your path, Western man. It's an interesting take. And it's actually a comment on what Jamie Dimon said publicly. So why don't we read what Jamie Dimon actually said? He basically said, scroll up a little bit, Paul. I'll read his quote. So Chief Executive J.P. Morgan Chase & Co. Chief Executive Officer Jamie Dimon said the Democratic Party went too far in its focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, a.k.a. institutionalized racism. That's my commentary. Prioritizing ideology over practical solutions. He says, I have a lot of friends who are Democrats, and they're idiots, Dimon said Thursday at a foreign ministry event in Dublin. I always say they have big hearts and little brains. They do not understand how the real world works. Almost every single policy rolled out failed. He's not wrong. I mean, he's literally not wrong. There's a famous, I think it's a Churchill quote. I don't know if it's Churchill or someone else, but it's if you're not young and a Democrat, you have no heart, and if you're not old and conservative or Republican or whatever, you have no brain. I mean, because the thing is, and Thomas Sowell says this all the time, right? We judge these policies based on their intention, not their outcome. And when the best thing we could do for everybody is let the free market do its thing. Get out of the way. Get the government out of the way. Let the free market, increase the standard of living for everybody, lower the cost of all goods and products indefinitely, right? But there's so much interference in that mechanism and process that like the cost of things should be going down literally forever because we get better and better and more efficient at producing them. But they don't. Why do they not? Why do we even have inflation? It's like we have to think about these questions, right? Like we shouldn't even have inflation to begin with. It should be perpetual deflation forever because the cost and the way we do things is getting better, more advanced, more efficient as time goes on. This is just the inevitable arc of human civilization, progress, and capitalism. And we don't have that. And we don't fully understand. I think people don't realize how much is actually being stolen from them. Like, how much is actually being stolen from you? It's like, I receive $100. I pay a fucking 35% tax on that. I turn around and buy something from you, pay a 10% sales tax. You turn around and buy something from him, 10% sales tax. After that's done 5 or 6 times, if that money's like circulated just a little bit, you run the math in your brain and it's like, where did all the money go? Well, it all went back to the government. So it's like, it's crazy. It's honestly absurd. And I think that's, the money printer is literally, exacerbating wealth inequality. It's exacerbating all of these things that people are so up in arms about. And I think, these policies that the Democrats have, I'm just trying to think, objectively here. So many of these policies are just utter failures. They just don't work. Even though their intentions seem good, they just ultimately fail in reality. In practicality, they just don't work because they go against human nature and incentive structure. Crazy to think about. You know?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts of Larry Lepard's book is he sort of questions the 2%, inflation rate. And I think in my head, I was like, that's so true. Like, I have always just assumed 2% inflation rate is a good thing.
Because that's what they teach you. They just want you to think that because then it justifies them stealing from you.
The reason they want it is because it helps them. I mean, they get to choose, where that 2% goes. Some of it goes in my pocket. Some of it goes to my friends. And
some of it builds a $2.3 billion federal palace. We just don't know.
Yeah, it's just
10% for the big guy here, 10% for the big guy there, and we just don't know what's going on.
But I think going to the point of sort of like how the political spectrum has changed. I mean, I think if we were to live in a fictional world where Bill Clinton were to run again and be the same age with the same policies, he would run as a Republican. Like
who would? Who
Bill Clinton.
Oh, Bill Clinton. Yeah. Well, I mean, his policy is very similar to Trump. I mean, they were basically they're very similar. I think that now that I think about it, it's like they're very similar politicians.
Yeah. I mean, he essentially deregulated. He fired a lot of people. He sort of slimmed down the budget. And so, I mean, it's wild to me to think about some of these politicians that ran as Democrats. I don't know if they would run for where the party is now.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what the point of this post was like you literally have a communist trying to do government-run grocery stores in New York City versus like Stephen Miller, who's like, hey, illegal aliens are like, on Medicaid, Medicare, on entitlements.
Yep.
Tons of our tax revenues going to them through hospitals and all these other things, and this is a problem. And we ran on this mandate.
What really blew me away about the whole Mamdani thing was they actually broke down, Democratic voters that voted for him. And he did exceptionally well at very, very affluent.
Yeah.
But did very poorly and actually lost in sort of the poorest, like making sub, I think, $65,000 a year, which is crazy because like his entire policy is like, we're going to help you. We're going to do these things. We're going to block prices. But they're not buying it. You know, it's like the people who were like, oh, cool.
I think most of his money came from the wealth. I think they came from out-of-state billionaires. I think probably like Reid Hoffman and the Bill Gates probably funding this stuff. So who knows? Kind of crazy. Crazy. All right. What else do we want to talk about, Paul? You want to pull us back to our bookmark thread?
Well,
let's take a look here.
Did you want to? You had brought up that famous quote.
Yeah, I just said I wasn't sure who said it, and it looks like so. Here it says often wrongly credited to Winston Churchill, but no evidence supports this. Yeah, it's what I remember hearing something like that. But yeah, if you're not a liberal at 20, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative at 40, you have no brain. Yeah,
is it safe to say that Jamie Dimon's not going to be running as the Democratic?
I don't know. I think if he did, he could actually save the Democratic Party. That's the crazy part, is that he has been floated as the Democratic candidate, but it sounds like he's not a Democrat from what is saying here. Here's another big story that happened today. Gavin Newsom was all over sending videos. Oh, I can't believe they're doing this. And turns out that the CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott, here he is with a bunch of juveniles working in the marijuana facility, almost all unaccompanied, one as young as 14 years old. So California, are you ready to partner with us to stop child exploitation? So this is what's wrong with the people like Gavin Newsom, who's basically just a fucking liar, lies about everything, goes out, pulls this, tries to invoke your emotion with a lie. Paul, can you scroll down and find the bookmark thread? I had something pulled up on the bookmark thread. Go scroll down where we can see the takes. So get right up. Yeah, right there. Nope. One more. There. So here's the mainstream media just lying about everything, posting this nonsense bullshit where they just literally lie. Protesters and Border Patrol agents clashed near Ventura County farm. Federal agents clashed with protesters during immigration raid. Protesters and federal agents clashed during raid. All this just stuff. Like, they don't say, yes, it's an illegal. So they don't want you to know that it's just a bunch of, like, essentially illegal aliens that are, some of them child labor, and that they're at a marijuana farm. So, like, no, don't you think that NPR and all these motherfuckers, don't you think they should fucking tell you that, hey, there was literally children working on a weed farm in California, and, like, Gavin Newsom comes out and tries to make it seem like, oh, it's just poor families, we're just breaking them all up. It's like, no, you've got a bunch of kids working on a weed farm in California that are illegal aliens. What the fuck's happening here, right? Like, this is the kind of reality that of what's actually happening versus what the picture they try to paint. And they use this framing bullshit and their little way, that the subtle way to manipulate you and gaslight you in the story, so you just think like, oh, damn, ICE did it again. There's not a bunch of 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds working on this damn farm here, this weed farm, you know, that are not even supposed to be here to begin with. Totally unmonitored, you know, just craziness. Crazy. Man, I hope this guy, this Newsom guy, does not. I hope he can just be buried in the primaries whenever they come around, because he's really, you know, winding up to try to get himself to be the candidate, the guy. But he's just like a pathological liar, hypocrite. I mean, you know, these are people that kind of scare you. Like, you see someone like that, and you're like, oh my God, this guy's just like, he's pathological. You know, he just lies about everything. Does anybody else have any thoughts on all that? I know I went on a little rant there.
That's really, I mean, it's an interest, being a kid that grew up on a farm, helping my grandparents harvest like the fruit of their season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to know more about that story. A bunch of kids at the weed farm.
And The Simpsons says, child slaves working on a drug farm would be an international scandal if it happened in Mexico. The fact that it happened in California is unforgivable. Everyone involved belongs in jail for life. Yeah, I don't think this is a family farm. This is a major industrial operation that's happening here. So it looks like they make over $1 million a month, apparently. Glasshouse Farms generates over $1 million in monthly sales. Shameful that they choose to exploit their labor force.
That's fucked up.
California Democrats support child trafficking and slave labor to grow their weed. Yeah, I don't know.
these are
I wonder if they donate to the Democratic Party. I mean, if with that amount of revenue coming in,
I don't know. Maybe it's ending up in Act Blue or something. Something's going on here.
Could well be. No, I mean it's an absolute shame. I think that, like, obviously we know that sort of the media sort of ignores and selectively picks what they want to run to sort of fit into the overall narrative. But it is a bummer that, like, we don't really double click and sort of dig deeper into actually what's going on and why it's the case. I mean, it's basically child exploitation, and so.
First thing that comes to my mind is like, why are the kids there?
Yeah, that's
like,
a great question.
I mean, I get it, it's summertime, whatever.
Well, they are illegal. I mean, they're illegal aliens, and they're underage.
So, I have, you know, I spent a decade in LA, and I got to know some people who grow and who, you know, more North California, who had some operations. And it turns out that this used to be a really lucrative thing. This was a seasonal thing where hippies would actually go and work at these farms for about a month or two and just spend all day, like, harvesting and drying out and, like, processing these marijuana plants. And they would make great money in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
But what happened, this was like 10, 15 years ago, maybe even longer. But since then, the cartel has actually taken over this business.
I'm not surprised.
They have squeezed out the honest actors, and now there's no longer any hippies doing it, right? Now it's cartel people doing it. And the cartel...
Well, now they got 14-year-olds doing it, apparently.
They don't care about, like, labor laws, right? So they're actually bringing in kids now. So the kids probably don't have a choice. They're most likely right?
It's very sad, yeah.
Most likely indentured servants.
Yeah, very sad.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's move on to the next story.
On a brighter note, there was a...
Yeah, pull up. I had a bright note. We're going to watch and react to this. We got some good news coming. I'm going to try every day to get some good news. You know, you're on X, you're on these platforms, just like everything's sensationalized, but let's get some good science news in here. We got Science Corner right now. We got a little
So
good
this is actually a super old video, but
Science
it's still
session.
cool.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, just play. It's kind of cool. It's a little bit old, but fuck it.
Maybe just hit the side arrow. Doka. Doka. Doka.
What is this?
It's it. It's Owo. Isn't it Owo? We can't tell them. We have to have them look through the photos too. Thing.
Hey, we get it.
Holy man.
Oh man, this is the happiest
What the
ever.
So there's the bird. Apparently, they thought it was extinct for over 140 years.
Wow.
It's the black-naped pheasant pigeon.
Man, this is the happiest.
What the
They caught it on camera for the very first time in like 140 years. So it's the little things in life sometimes.
That's awesome.
So
That'll-
there's our good news for the day.
That'll be neat.
The black-necked pheasant pigeon has been spotted on camera for the first time in 140 years. So it's no longer, it's not extinct after all. This happened in Papua New Guinea.
I'll be just as happy as that guy
Yeah.
when I see one of the Epstein clients arrested.
Oh, God. So speaking of that, let's move on to that. It looks like there is apparently doctored footage. Apparently they found out that, and it also looks like Dan Bongino might resign. He's, I guess, took a leave of absence or something. And it just seems like the DOJ wants to try to just like sweep this under the rug. And it seems like Bongino's just not having it. He's just not having it. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm very curious. So Laura Loomer has the scoop here. She says that apparently Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are livid with AG Pam Bondi over her DOJ memo and the lack of transparency from her office regarding the Jeffrey Epstein files. Sources tell me Dan Bongino is taking the day off today from his job as deputy director of the FBI, and there's now speculation on whether or not he will return to his job at the FBI over his disgust with Blondie, is what he's calling Laura's little insult, lack of transparency in handling of the Epstein files. Pam Blondie has brought total embarrassment to President Trump. J.D. Vance, Dan Bongino, and Kash Patel. She has also lied to the American people. I'm told Kash and Bongino are furious with Blondie and the blowback she has caused them with her lack of transparency. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino should call for Blondie's public resignation today to save themselves and to also push for full transparency into the Epstein files. This is an issue the American people care deeply about. Someone needs to be fired for this. Giving Blondie courtesy to resign is more than she deserves. Trump should just fire her. So very interesting. It looks like there's some breaks within the ranks. What's actually interesting to point out here is that Pam Bondi was not the first choice by Trump. She was like she was the backup option after, I think, Matt Gaetz's testimony or his nomination was going to see a lot of snags and they were going to cause a lot of problems. So I guess he pivoted to Pam Bondi as a backup option here. I don't know what is going on. We don't have all the details behind closed doors, but looks like we're seeing some reporting here. It doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. So
I mean,
obviously,
why haven't we just been more open with the public on all this stuff? I really don't
know. Again, it's hard to know what's happened behind closed doors and who's implicated and will it affect the economy. Some people have speculated that it might affect the economy because there's a lot of CEOs or whatever. Other people have said that it's intelligence agency secrets that we're sharing and that it would expose it would put agents or whatever in risk. It would potentially compromise intelligence gathering operations. I don't know. We don't know what's actually happened, right? Like, we don't know. Obviously, this shit smells so bad. Everybody can obviously see it's bullshit. It looks like they doctored the footage of the video they released. I think I posted go to Jason Calacanis' post, Paul, on the thing. It's in my bookmarks. I think it should be probably close to the top. It was like right before we got on. There we go. Look, I had a comment. Where's my comment? Find my comment. There it is. So I said, I like to hope this was an intentional Easter egg left by an honorable intelligence agent who was just following orders. So like that they didn't cover up the fact that they altered the metadata to leave that little the fact that they tried to edit the video in there. So apparently I read somewhere that it was like stitched from 2 clips. It was saved 4 times. So yeah, I mean, there was that minute missing in the footage and stuff. There's just all sorts of speculation. I think that I think it was who's the guy you like, Paul? What's his name?
Well, there's
Weinstein.
Mike Benz, there's Eric Weinstein.
Yeah, they have a lot of
Eric-
interesting takes. They have a lot.
Yeah,
Eric Weinstein
there's
had a really good.
Whitney
Uh-huh.
Webb wrote 2 books on this, right?
Mhm.
Pam Bondi prosecuted Epstein previously in like 2016 or something here in Florida. Maybe it was even 2009. It was like a decade ago. And he was found guilty of these charges. And JP Morgan, Bill Gates, all these individuals still associated with him thereafter, even though they knew he was found guilty of pedophilia and child trafficking. And he got a slap on the wrist because the prosecutor at the time was told that he is intelligence. And there's
That was what I was telling you the other day. I think I said Eric Acosta, but I think it's what the heck is his name? I can't remember the name, but yeah, there was
Glenn Greenwald.
no, Glenn Greenwald posted about this, but this was at the time that they said he was intelligence. But Eric Weinstein had a really interesting, I think he was on a podcast talking about this, and I listened to the segment. He was kind of like, whatever this is, we don't know what this is, but he thinks that like this is like a leftover vestigial of like intelligence gathering from before the internet age or something. He's like, this whole process thing, it like can't survive the way they do things now. Like this is a leftover relic of like pre-internet. So like this type of thing can't survive anymore in how the world works now. But so he thinks that's kind of what was going on and what this is. It's obviously some kind of honeypot trap type thing, and it probably has it probably exposes intelligence officers and information and our allies or who knows. There's definitely more here, obviously underneath the hood, that we can only speculate about until we have more information. And it looks like Cash and Bongino are like they're not happy about this. They're not going to like go along with it anymore. And it seems like
they went
so we'll
along
see.
with it. But you could tell there was a significant shift. There was a vibe change, and the people. If you read any post that they put out, every comment is just ragging on them, rightfully so, because they've betrayed their mandate. And I can only imagine how delighted and how essentially how relieved they must feel right now that the public is demanding this.
Yeah.
Because imagine you're in this position, then you're told essentially, hey, listen, this is how this is going to go. Right? You are now in this position. And you will do as we say, because essentially they have all the power structures in place to put you in line if you fall out of it. And now to have the public demand so vocal, right? These people feel like they can finally step up, because if something were to happen to them right now, it would be pretty clear, as to why that happened. But I feel this is a unifying cause. And it's like you said, Matthew. It's Maddie. It is it's almost a relic of this old oligarchy, where this this blackmail operation type behavior, that actually compromised leadership all throughout the world. This old CIA tactic stuff that has to come to an end if we want to enter this new era of a more transparent, reliable, and accountable leadership, which Trump was supposed to represent. We're supposed to drain the swamp, right?
So there was another angle to this that I had saw somebody posting. I think it might have been Eric Weinstein or somebody, because kind of how he was talking about how somebody had said that like releasing the list would ruin innocent people's lives, like either whether people that maybe went to the island but didn't know what was up, that just wanted a vacation. So I think Eric Weinstein talked about like intellectuals and stuff maybe going. So like maybe the list is of 200 people.
He actually made the opposite point. He said those people, we will have to adjudicate or whatever. He essentially said that those individuals will not get the heat. We'll have to all forgive their involvement because they were implicated. They didn't know. Just
so there might be a list of like 200 people that went or that are on the list. Maybe 50 of them are the actual fucking criminals.
And they
right?
have the video footage to figure out who was actually involved in the worst of the worst. And that's where they keep gaslighting us, saying, "Oh, we can't show this. This would be victimizing the women again." And it's like, guys, we don't want to see the footage. That's your job. You review the footage.
Yeah.
You arrest. You make the arrests. That's what we want to see. Right? We don't need to see any, CP. No thanks. Right? Keep that far away. and these, just what we want is accountability,
Mhm.
and we deserve that. If we're going to finance these agencies and these institutions,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I think that, they are ultimately accountable to the public, and we pay their fucking salaries. So, this kind of behavior just can't go on. It can't continue. And I think there's obviously shit that happened, and we need to just know what it is and put it out there.
just one last thought on this.
I love to see Paul so fired up. This is amazing.
I'm sorry. There's a few topics that really get to me, and when it comes to innocent people being abused, that's just a no-go. It's a no-go, and I
Children,
don't care.
of course, yeah, just
Exactly.
terrible.
When children
Yeah.
are implicated in this, then that means everybody must stop what they're doing and put an end to it.
Mm.
And I cannot just go about business as if, this doesn't affect me, right? You're just a nobody. You're just a brokey, right? We don't care about your thoughts. Well, it turns out we are the majority, right? We are the 99%. And these could very well be our kids, right? And these kids, they're counting on us to do the right thing. So that said, I heard an interesting perspective on Tucker Carlson's podcast. He had a guest on, I forget the guy's name, most recent episode. He pointed out that this administration right now is essentially signaling to the elites that they will go to any length to protect them. And that is why this thing has been handled so poorly, because essentially they're saying, look, let it go. It's over. It's done. We're not talking about it anymore. And they're signaling to the people implicated, those powerful individuals, that they will go to any length to cover for them. And I just find that to be literally the opposite of what Trump was supposed to do. And so if Pam Bondi resigns, great. But she's just acting on orders. And I think that those orders are coming from Trump directly. And that's where we're going to have to hear and see.
That's a big claim to make.
He's the chief executive officer, right? She is simply acting on orders. And the way that he interrupted her question, right, and chimed in and essentially just diminished the reporter's question.
When did you see this? What are you talking about?
This was what blew this whole thing up at the White House the day after they said that.
See if you can find the clip of that.
Sure.
You can react to it. In the meantime, maybe let's go to the next bookmark note, and then we can come back to this once you find the thing, or unless you think you can find it quickly.
It's right here.
Oh, it's right here. Okay.
Super viral.
Yeah,
this is what blew all this up.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
And it's so funny because Trump could have handled this so well.
Trump could have handled a lot of things well. Trump is he's a loose cannon. You got to have to take the good with the bad with him.
It left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence
Alex
agency.
Acosta, that was his name.
Could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the
Yeah, sure. If I
Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question.
So
play
that
the whole
was
video. Let's watch the whole video. Yeah.
Question about the
That's what she has to
client
say.
list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. and the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
So much gaslighting in one video. I've never seen it. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, my thoughts are, I think this is definitely something that we need resolution for, and I think it's horrible, the whole situation. Is this a primary issue for me as a Trump voter? Absolutely not. This is like, you know, it's sensationalized because it's media, and it's like people like to talk about it because it's obviously disgusting and disturbing, and it grabs the media cycle. Me personally, you know, there are issues that are more important, like, you know, helping 300 million Americans have more prosperity.
But Matt, you're feeding into their game. It's not one or the other.
I'm not playing any game.
We can have both.
Paul, let me share my opinion. You've shared yours. Let me share my opinion. My opinion is that, you know, people have different priorities. I think that we need resolution for this issue, and nobody's buying the bullshit about the intelligence agency stuff. Like nobody's believing the story that there was nobody else involved, that, you know, he wasn't intelligence, all these different things. Something definitely happened. Something was definitely going on. And to that, people do care about that. And, you know, obviously we're talking about it right now. Me personally, there are other things of the agenda, reasons that I voted, that are more important to me as an American. You know, the tax cuts, you know, deporting millions of illegal aliens who are, you know, essentially draining our entitlement systems and stressing out our hospitals and committing crime and doing all these things. That to me is a more important agenda.
So those things are all symptoms of a very corrupt government. If these individuals don't get weeded out, none of those things will change either.
Well, we just got the bill passed, and a lot of things have changed from that, right? We're seeing crypto at all-time highs now, Bitcoin at all-time highs. We're getting market structure. We're getting stablecoin legislation.
There's still war going on. We're actually doubling down against Russia.
I don't think we're not involved with Russia at all.
We are actually not deporting the way that they're saying we are. And
well, you just saw a video of it. We're
if you look at the numbers, right?
That's why the bill was passed, to get another $175 billion to increase the amount of.
They're offering amnesty, right?
Nobody's offering amnesty right now. People are speculating that Trump is considering giving some variant of amnesty to potential farm workers. But
it's just I'm definitely not tired of winning
without interrupting every 2 seconds.
We have not been winning at all.
Can you let me finish my point without interrupting every 2 seconds?
It's just hard when you're like going along with this
I'm not going along with any narrative. I'm
intel agencies.
I'm going along with my opinion, and if you can let me finish talking, I'd really appreciate it. So these priorities, like the Genius Act that just is about to get passed, it's on the 1 yard line, like removing stuff like the crypto broker reporting rule, like deporting, you know, millions of illegal aliens, which is already underway. They've already done hundreds of thousands, and I think we might already be around 1 million. Potentially, I'm not sure, but $175 billion to increase that effort. Now, you know, there are reasonable compromise. There has been people speculating that there might be some kind of amnesty deal to be made. Personally, my opinion on that amnesty deal would be to penalize people who have come here illegally if they have not committed a crime, and make them pay a higher tax rate or something where they benefit the American taxpayer. They can't be on any entitlements. They have to pay into Medicaid. They have to pay into Medicare. They have to pay into all these systems. They can't use those systems yet. They can't be a part of those systems yet. And they have to have a certain number of work years under their belt where they've overpaid into the system to then get your citizenship. But that would come second fiddle to people that have been properly waiting in line. So that would be my proposal of a solution is, hey, you know, you've been here for 5 years. You came here, obviously broke the law to come here. You know, you're a hard worker, whatever. You know, hey, you're going to identify yourself. You're going to get in line for the process. While you're here illegally, you're going to pay. You can work, but you're going to pay a higher tax rate than the average American. You're going to pay into all these entitlement programs instead of being a drain. And then you are, after so many years, eligible to actually get your citizenship. I'm okay with something like that, where it penalizes that, and they actually benefit the taxpayer instead of the opposite, right? So that would be my solution for that problem. Now, that has not been formally proposed by the Trump administration yet. I'm just throwing out there what I would be willing to agree with, and I think is reasonable. We have huge victories coming here with the Bitcoin, with all of the Bitcoin activity that's occurred, signaling the green light for administration, incentivizing energy production. All of these different things are huge wins in my book, and come way higher up the totem pole of things that I find important personally. Now, do I want to see people have justice? Abso-fucking-lutely. What are your thoughts, Alessandro?
I mean, so I would say I probably am similar to you, Maddie, on there are issues that in my mind the president has to tackle. I mean, national defense. I think the economy is extremely important to me, making sure that we bounce back and we have a thriving, not just sort of crypto industry, but I'd also love to see manufacturing really come back to the United States. And so I think he's doing a really good job on those sort of big picture items. I think where, Paul probably represents a large swath of Americans who voted for, hey, we want transparency. Hey, we want a president that is not going to distract with sort of like, hey, look over here, and we're not going to address all these other things. And so, I think there is a lack of leadership maybe within, Pam Bondi's group of basically saying like, hey, we want to resolve this. Here's the date in which we're going to publish this. I don't really feel like they're doing a very good job being like, by this date, we're going to have this settled and resolved. And so I think the way it comes across to Paul and all of us is kind of like, this is something that we're not really paying attention to. And so, and I think they could solve this by basically saying like, hey, we're going to do this by this date. Here's what you're going to have access to. And I feel like it's not being communicated in a way that people can feel like, okay, this is settled. Like this is not.
So it's beyond that though, right? We haven't seen any arrests, right? 2020, no arrests. COVID, right? We still have Fauci running around. Butler, there was no arrest. Benghazi, no arrest. January 6th, no arrest. All the Doge findings, no accountability, right? The Russia collusion, no arrests.
I think
right?
we're starting to see, I think there was a medical fraud that they found, I think, that they're starting to do some arrests. I think they arrested a bunch of, I think that started. I think they looked that up. I think there was a start of like arresting for Medicaid fraud. I think it was like billion. It was like 12 to $15 billion, and it was like a couple hundred people implicated in some Medicaid or Medicare fraud ring or something that they found.
Yeah, you only have so many cards that you can play, as president, right? And so I think you do have to be mindful of like it is hard to go and just like round a lot of people up. And so from my perspective, what we should start with is transparency, push things out to the public, allow the public to do sort of like public journalism and sort of post on X and share their findings and what's interesting to them. And then you follow suit with like, here's who we're going to go after. But the way that they're doing it right now, it becomes too easy to feel like there's some cloak and dagger stuff going on behind the scenes.
What do you think, Jeff? My name is Jeff. Do you have any input on all this? What do you find important? What do you think is important? Do you think the Trump administration's priorities are in the right place right now, focusing on the economy, crypto, all these different things, or do you personally think that the Epstein issue should take #1 priority?
Still wondering why those 14-year-olds were on the fields.
You're still stuck on the fucking weed farm, bro. You're back in the fucking glass weed farm in California with Gavin Newsom running around. Look what they're doing. Oh my God. He posted this fucking video of like people running from ICE, and it turns out like, oh, it was a bunch of 14-year-olds working on a weed farm, like child labor.
I feel like Paul's like what he's expressing is the importance of needing to hold people accountable to some of the things that have happened.
We don't have a government that represents us, right? And that's all these other things you're discussing, Matt. Like, great, but none of that's real. If we have this going on behind the scenes, right? If we are compromised through some blackmail operation,
when you say
our
if
nation,
we are
our elected leaders,
who is compromised?
Our elected leaders that, you ask yourself, why are we not getting the Epstein list? Honey, it's because they are the Epstein list, right? And that's essentially what we're coming to find out. Elon Musk tweeted that Trump is on the Epstein list, and now there has been quite a bit of substantiating evidence that has emerged.
I don't think there's been any evidence.
Oh, there sure has. Don't get me started, bro.
There's been zero evidence that Trump is on the Epstein list.
There's
been claims from
There's
people.
an actual case with Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump against a minor, and they were both found guilty. There is an outstanding case.
I don't.
where
Why don't you pull that
for
up?
you right now.
Why don't you pull it up and present some evidence?
What's crazy is that I didn't know about this until a few days ago.
You're saying when you say there's an outstanding case,
like
you
there
mean
was a
there's
case.
There is a case going.
There was a
right
case that
now?
was settled, and this child, like they settled out of court.
Well, let's see it. Let's see the evidence. Let's see the case. Let's see if there was a settlement. Let's see if it got. Let's see what you're talking about here.
I did
'cause
see the Elon Musk tweet of Trump.
Yeah, I mean,
Trump
obviously they
being on
were
the Epstein
fighting,
list.
you know,
Yeah.
but then you see Trump on a plane with his kids. So like, what the fuck, you know? You're basically saying like you left your kid
mean,
with a pedophile. I mean, that's literally what you're saying here. Like, oh yeah, I know he's on the Epstein.
So
He's a
long ago.
pedophile.
Trump is a changed man, but that doesn't mean that you can.
I don't think you
hide
go
your-
from being a pedophile to not being
Look,
a
and
pedophile.
we talked about this, Matt.
That's,
He wasn't
like,
the type
not-
of pedophile that's literally into kids. He was the type of pedophile that was. He was, these girls were like 14, 15, 16, right? And like you doll them up and they look older. And these guys
I
can
don't know,
justify
dude.
that in their minds, because they don't talk about what's actually happening. They're living lavish.
don't
They're
know.
indulging in kinds of, these sinister practices.
$2
But in
billion
reality,
palaces.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
in
That-
reality, they leave it up to these girls. They had
Oh.
multiple pimps, like Ghislaine Maxwell, that are actually recruiting these girls out of high school, right? And so they're not asking the age, right? They're just living this exclusive.
So here we go. So let's actually look at the facts. So the case in question refers to a civil lawsuit. So the first thing that tells me that this is a civil lawsuit. So they're going after him for money. It's not criminal. So if you have a real evidence of a case, you go criminal. This is a shakedown, which is that's my first thought. Every time I see a civil lawsuit, I think
someone
shakedown.
broke this down.
So let's see
I
here.
could unpack it.
So
for you, but
filed
go
in
ahead.
2016 by an anonymous plaintiff using the pseudonyms Katie Johnson and Jane Doe, who accused Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein of raping and sexually assaulting her when she was 13 years old in 1994. The lawsuit was titled Jane Doe versus Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey E. Epstein and was filed in federal court. So let's find what was the final result of the case. Let's see if we can find see if there was any evidence. But I mean, a civil lawsuit versus a criminal. I mean, this is like a shakedown for money.
So
That's what's
there has
Oregon's
been
normally well, former jury.
100
So Jerry
and
Springer, producer.
100 plus women that have stepped forward.
And this
Actually,
only
it
happened
was
2016 was
200.
when he ran for president. So this is, of course, this is a shakedown for money. They just do it right when he runs for president. They try to throw this shit out there. I mean, the case been unproven. So it remains unresolved and unproven. What does it mean, unresolved and unproven?
It's because they settle out of court.
Ask
So
the question. Was the
there's
case settled or what
they
happened? here?
sign a
Let's see
gag
here.
order essentially.
What's
Yeah,
the porn star lady signed a gag order, and she broke her gag order. What was her name? But she did a civil too. They always do civil. So civil is like
Because
non-criminal.
you can get
You
money.
get money out of
You
civil.
get money for it,
Yeah.
but the bar is also significantly
You
lower.
have to also
Oh, yeah,
understand
because you don't
the
have the evidence. So
attorneys-
yeah,
the
yeah.
attorneys
Exactly.
involved. The
Yeah.
attorneys know the game that's being played.
Well, because they want to get paid. They want money. So that's what
Yeah,
they do.
right.
They do.
So they take these clients, dude. It's a whole racket.
for delicious
It's a
Stacey
racket,
Lambs.
and I'm disgusted that we have allowed for our institutions
Ask
to
a
be
question. Was the case
hijacked
settled?
by this.
Was the case settled for money, or did it? What happened here? Let's see what happens here.
I feel like this is a unifying issue. All sides from all political aisles should come together to put an end to this.
People definitely want to know what the truth is. I'm not disputing that at all. Like I think I want to know what the truth is too. Everybody wants transparency.
And if
I'm
they
just
want
saying-
my tax
I'm
dollars,
just-
right,
Epstein was the spy that was put in
Yeah.
blackmail on Trump at that time. It's who knows what it was.
Who fucking knows? I mean,
could've-
that's what I'm saying. We just
could've-
don't have the evidence to make a definitive.
I think everybody wants
declaration
answers.
here.
I think the question,
Everybody wants answers.
I think the question is like, how do you sort of play your cards to get the most amount of impact done possible? And so what Trump is trying to do is like first year of his administration, he wants to try and essentially deliver a strong economy, bring back manufacturing.
I think
and,
I think we're seeing that success. And
yeah.
I'm very pleased so far. So
And-
personally,
and I think like we want to get peace. And
so no, the case was not settled for money or through any out of court. It was voluntarily dismissed by the plaintiff. So basically, she fucking knew she was going to lose, so she dismissed the fucking case. That's what happens.
it says here she was citing fears from
Yeah,
death
no,
threats.
bullshit.
Death threats, dude.
That's
Matt, how
bullshit.
can you say that? They killed the witness.
Yeah, it's
They
fucking
killed her just
crazy.
recently. Matt, you don't know what level of corruption you're dealing with.
Dude.
They make people
It's just silly.
disappear.
They
Man,
file this
oh
case.
My Lord. See, this is why like,
The
I
lawyer
get so worked
probably
up.
the lawyer
It's
brought the
'cause
case.
You
The
just
lawyer brought the
dismiss it.
It's always another deeper conspiracy. Every time we find the facts.
Because
She didn't
they're
here's
telling
the
us the
facts.
Epstein
It
list
was a
doesn't
fucking
exist.
shakedown. It was
They're
a
telling us
shakedown.
Epstein
filed
killed himself.
She filed the court case
hold
the year he ran for president. It was a fucking shakedown. Evidence didn't exist. It was a civil lawsuit, not a criminal one. So the police, nobody was involved. The lawyer, they basically realized they couldn't win the case. They didn't have any fucking evidence, and then they dismissed the case. You know, I don't know what else to say there is about it. The names weren't even fucking known. It was a Jane Doe. She was filing anonymously. It was a fucking monetary shakedown. You know, if you had real evidence, you go to the police, you go to the court. You know, you do a criminal case. You know, it was just it's so convenient. It just happened for 70 years. He was fine. He had no criminal, and then all of a sudden he runs for president, and all of a sudden here come the civil fucking shakedown lawsuit. It's like the crazy lady who said that he raped her 30 years ago in a fucking elevator, and like she's living in a fucking a house in the woods with trans flags and all sorts of crazy fucking psychotic shit written all over her house.
So it was dismissed on the 4th. Is that basically election day?
It was voluntary. I'm not sure.
What
No, it was on November 4th, 2016. So yeah, the guy, I think one of the guys who brought the case was like a political lawyer for the Democrats or something. I'm like vaguely remembering like stuff about this, but it was like the lawyer who brought the case like was Democrat affiliated.
All right,
This is more
look,
lawfare bullshit
do
that
you
they've been doing.
understand what this girl, what was her name, Victoria or Veronica? Was it Veronica? I forget her last name. She's the survivor of Epstein Island, and she recently died, and she said 2 days before that if she dies, it was not suicide, right? She knew she was going to be killed. And I just also found out 2 days ago that her first job was at Mar-a-Lago. That's where she met Epstein and Trump, right? And so you just realize, and then guess what? After that, that's when Epstein bought Epstein Island, because they transitioned from Mar-a-Lago to, so you realize the ties go way back, and Trump was involved in beauty pageants for kids and stuff. And don't get me wrong, he's a changed man. You look at like I think people can change, but it doesn't mean that you can hide you can't protect this ongoing issue just because you don't want the blowback. You can't burn down the whole house to protect your own bullshit. Like at this point in time, like that is the most it's the most irresponsible way to handle that situation. Fess up. If you were involved in one way or another, fess up. Face it like a man, and then we'll deal with it. But I get it. There's there's economies at stake here and stuff. But I think the American
Nobody knows what's happening
people
behind.
can
Nobody knows.
handle
I
a
think
little
American people
dip
can
in the
handle too.
economy,
I
right?
just don't.
We can
I don't.
handle a little dip in the economy. That means we weed out this kind of corruption.
The question
and
is
filth.
like, does intelligence have like a dictator who's like stopping a genocide and they have him by the balls and they're able to control, a genocide from happening in some country? Who fucking knows? We just don't know the details. We don't have the evidence. And like to insinuate that Trump is somehow involved, I just think is like the same thing when Elon said it. Like it's an extraordinary claim, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I'm just like I'm not buying it. Like I'm just not buying it. So, if the evidence presents itself, then I'll reevaluate my opinion. But like I just don't like. There's definitely some fishy intelligence shit going on. And there's definitely it smells like shit. There's definitely smoke. But like as far as who was involved, who the people were, like all that stuff, we just don't have the evidence. That Alan Dershowitz guy, pull him up. He fucking said that he saw the list. So he was on. I think I flagged him. And then let's move on and go to a new topic. But like no, it's not how you spell it. I think it's on my bookmarks. I think I bookmarked it. He basically said like he saw a list in court or something like that. Dershowitz, yeah. Here, there is.
I mean, there is a list. I think Bondi said that the list is on her table.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. And then they released some list that was
and that's
unredacted.
why they're putting on people like Pecker talking about catch and kill. They're putting on McDougal. They're putting on. There's no crime, and they ought to be very careful about this because the Supreme Court of the appellate court in Albany just reversed Harvey Weinstein's conviction on the ground.
I think that's
that they
old, Paul.
put in too much information.
Yeah, that's an old one. That's from April 2028. That was about them trying to go after Trump again for lawfare. But here he goes. No, I don't know if it's that one. Go down. Oh, wow. That's old February.
He says the Rothschilds introduced.
That's from
him to Jeffrey
2023 from February.
Wow.
That's not the one.
I'm not surprised. So I've heard a lot. There was a survivor of the Rothschild.
Here's the one I'm looking for.
On
Play this
PBD.
one.
And she was saying how she was trafficked as a kid by the Rothschilds.
Play this one.
and nobody listened to it, but she has receipts.
This is not an opinion. This is a fact. I have seen. Remember, I was accused falsely, and they have seen. And ultimately, I was completely cleared. The woman admitted that she may have mistook me for somebody else and withdrew all of her lawsuits. And so from day one, from the day I was accused, I said I want every document out because I knew every document would prove I was innocent. So let me tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed. And they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them. But I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. But I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong.
Just out of curiosity, without names, are these politicians, business leaders, both?
They're everything. And let me tell you, a lot of them are, at least one of them is somebody who was accused. Others are accusers. And the judges have said, if somebody calls themselves a victim, we're not going to give any information about them. But they may not be victims. They may be perpetrators. So we don't have information about false accusers. And we know there have been many false accusers who have accused innocent people for money. And those records are being deliberately, willfully suppressed. And they shouldn't be suppressed. If the accusation is allowed out, so should the material that diminishes the credibility of the accuser. We want total transparency on this. Every single document, no redaction.
Yes.
That's what I've said from day one. I waive any of my rights of privacy, anything there is about me.
That sounds like a man that's not on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but here's the thing too. I also think it's kind of a cop out, dude. You're like 90 years old. Who gives a fuck? If you've seen the fucking list,
what do you mean it's a cop?
let me fucking tell you let me break down my point here before you interrupt me. This motherfucker's like 90 years old. Like, what else do you have to live for? You might as well just fucking blow the lid on this thing. If you've seen the fucking list, you know who's on the list. You've seen the documents. Fucking yes, you're gonna get disbarred and you're gonna lose your fucking legal license, but you're probably fucking old enough to be retired, and you know what I mean. Like, you're 90, dude. Just fucking tell everybody you have the information. You've seen it, so fucking show everybody. Just say, look, I know I'm gonna get disbarred for this, but like humanity is more important than any stupid fucking law that tells me I can't talk about this. Here's the fucking information, right? Like. That would be an honorable thing to do.
He should be protected as a whistleblower.
Right, there you go. So I mean, again, that's what you do. That's what I would do if I was him. If I was in a situation and like I felt that strongly about it, fuck it. Some things are more important than money and fucking whatever. So if he has all that, like just fucking expose it. That's my thought. But hey, it is what it is. Jeffy says, didn't you see House of Cards? Politicians probably, I wonder if that's JMD, but politicians probably do set up hits on people they want out of the way. Well, no shit, of course. He's the POTUS. I mean, look at all the people falling out of windows in Russia. Look at all the politicians that all of a sudden are being arrested all across the West. He's the POTUS, puppet of the U.S. Who are Trump's orders coming from? Paul is the bigger question.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
and that opens up other can of worms.
Who we need to see Paul on camera. Well, Paul's welcome to come on camera. He might as well, since he's. We might need a new producer soon because he wants to argue with me about everything. So maybe we'll have to. Maybe we can switch spots and I can have some fucking peace and I can relax and he can come on here and vent his conspiracies.
No. We need. So look, the reason Maddie is the face and the he is the, I would say, he is the expert on various subjects, especially regarding Bitcoin, cryptography, and he is the thought leader because he has a more balanced approach. I am very cold and hot on many subjects, and this is one of them where I am very
You're
hot.
Obviously very passionate about this
very
subject.
Hot. And it's
consuming
it's
you.
polarizing, right? Most people will not appreciate this because they get stressed out. So your approach, in my opinion, I've told you this, you'll be able to reach more people because you have a more balanced approach. And this is the unifying factor that we all in this room share. We know what is behind all of this. It's a broken money. Right. And when we fix that, then we can start actually seeing long-term change. And that's what unifies us here. That's why we keep pushing that message. You have to defund these corrupt mechanisms that are essentially byproducts of a corrupted money.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. I mean, I think that's the most important issue. We're fundamentally fixing the problem at the base layer from first principles, right? That's the idea there. And that's why Bitcoin is so important. And that's why many of us have given our lives to this mission, to this whole thing, right? First principles thinking, and that's really where we can make a change. Obviously, you see Bitcoin breaking all-time highs, and that will continue indefinitely forever. The dollar, like we've said, if you look at a 15 to 20-year chart of any fiat currency against Bitcoin, it's obviously down and to the right because it's never going to recover because Bitcoin is the hardest, soundest, best money that we've ever had as humans. And it fixes a lot of these problems because, you can't steal that 2%, which is actually much higher. They're stealing way more than that. They're just, gaslighting you and manipulating the data to make it look that way.
Well, because they're taxing you also in
They're
all the other different ways.
All other things. Yeah. I mean, when you really think about it, it's like, wow, why are costs not going down? Like, why are costs it's just absurd because we're getting so much more technologically advanced.
We started a revolution because there was tax on tea.
On 2%,
like,
3%.
Come on.
Now you're giving like 70% of your life away. It's just absolutely
property
absurd.
taxes, capital gains taxes, income taxes. It's wild.
So yeah, if you look here at this data here, you can really see, Bitcoin has outperformed gold and S&P 500, everything else, for 15 years now, every single year for almost 15 years. I'm trying to see a single year where it hasn't. It's just kind of crazy to think about. It just kind of blows your mind. And expect this to continue. We are still very early on in this adoption curve. It's still very early. So,
but yeah, I mean, I think, maybe my last point on sort of this topic is it's taken 250 years to build the swamp. I think it will take more than, 6, 12, 18 months to sort of start to drain it. And so,
no doubt.
Bitcoin is doing its part. I think at creating a sounder money. But I think we all have a responsibility to speak our mind and be passionate about particular issues like Paul is being, because I'm sure each of us have issues where we're like, we want to go to bat and be passionate.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, Maddie and I are dads. We're young dads, right? And in Los Angeles, that's when I became aware of all of this filth because the daycare down the street from me where I was about to have my kid got busted for being a pedophilia ring. Right, this is in Hollywood, California, and it really messed me up. Right, I was a month away from putting my kid into that daycare.
Thank God you didn't.
Right, and then that happened. Right, so I'm thinking, wait a minute. So I started looking into it, and this didn't even make the news. Right,
crazy.
like I was like, this is insane. The only reason I knew about it is because I was keeping up with it. I was, right. It was right down the street from me, but. Yeah, these subjects, Jordan Peterson says there's things in life that uniquely speak to you that might actually bother you. And oftentimes those are call to actions, call to adventures. They're uniquely bothering you. So fix them. Right? And that's why I feel like we have to use our voice to try to hold these.
I think you should be.
Amen to that.
We're going to nominate you as the new AG. Then you can go fix it.
Dude, please.
But aside from that, there's not much else.
That would be incredible.
Aside
Paul.
from that, we're going to nominate you to become the new AG. And I'll put my name on the line to nominate you.
See, look,
But that being said, there's nothing we can do
old,
about the situation
I'll go
aside
out in
from
a
that.
fucking blaze of glory.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not 90, but if I can leave a legacy of ridding us of this filth, I will gladly take that fall on that.
We're all
Let's
do our part.
speaking of legacy, let's observe Patrick Bet-David's post here of an interesting legacy left by the democratically run cities, the top 10 U.S. cities with the highest homicide rates, and the last time each had a Republican mayor. So St. Louis, 1949, it's been 70 years. Baltimore, 1967. New Orleans, 1872. Detroit, Michigan, 1962. Cleveland, Ohio, 1989. Memphis, Tennessee, 1967. Las Vegas, 1975. Kansas City, 1991. Newark, New Jersey, 1953. And Chicago, Illinois, 1931. Bad policies destroy great cities. If the leadership doesn't change, you have three choices. Change the policies, change the city you live in, and accept the consequences. But choose because doing nothing is a decision too. It's just, when are people going to wake up? When are people going to wake up and demand something different? Obviously, these again, like we've talked about earlier, it's like Jamie Dimon said, like he has a bunch of Democratic friends and they're all idiots. They have big hearts, but their policies don't work, and they're all failures, right? So we just see that. They go up to that. That was the post, the chart I was talking about. So it was let's see.
$1?
That one right there, yeah. Alex Gladstein posted this.
This
I think
is
it was
cool.
Yeah. So new all-time low for USD and Bitcoin, and it shows essentially the dollar just going down forever against
Wild.
Bitcoin in Bitcoin terms. So if you just flop that chart, if you look at Bitcoin's chart against the dollar, usually you see the price going up. But the opposite is also true, right? The U.S. dollar is just losing value perennially to Bitcoin, and that's never going to change. It's just going to continue to lose value against the hardest money to ever exist. Now, obviously there's going to be volatility in that, and you're going to have the price swings, but over time it's going to continue to trend down simply based on fundamentals, right? One currency can be printed out of thin air, the other is built on a proof of work, decentralized global system that follows the mathematics and game theory, right? So
Yeah.
There are rules to the system, and they can't be manipulated by humans. And I think that's really the innovation. It's absolute scarcity that can't be manipulated by humans, because every time in history you give humans the chance, they are going to manipulate fiat currency, and that's just the rule, not the exception. And there's really no way to fix that.
With the chart.
I think. What'd you say?
Oh no, I was gonna say, with a chart like that, at what point do you stop using fiat to make purchases? Like, because you can't.
Well, people's brains, you have to invert people's brains. You have to give them the orange pill. Like they're still stuck in the matrix, my man. They're still stuck in the matrix. They haven't understood this yet, right?
I think once they see what, like, today's $100,000 stat, what if you buy in with 1,000, whatever, like the way that we see that increase exponentially increases, people will start to understand, like, wow, that's how much money the government was blowing.
Yeah, people ask me, when should I sell my Bitcoin? I say, like, when you need to sell your Bitcoin, you won't have to. Like, when you want to sell your Bitcoin, you won't have to, because Bitcoin will be the standard.
I love that meme of Morpheus and Neo where he's like, so when do I sell? And he's like, you won't have to.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
Awesome.
Right. That's the point. And again, even right now, like most of your savings, if you study game theory and you look at history and you look at the facts and the fundamentals, I mean, all of my savings are essentially in Bitcoin. So I don't, it's the hardest money to ever exist, that's my thought.
Yeah.
Obviously, short-term needs, there's volatility and structure, and you kind of have to have exposure to.
The challenge with fiat is its biggest weakness is humanity's biggest weakness, which is, we all want to press the big red button to inject a bunch of cash,
of course,
to solve any problem that pops
just paper it over. We'll just put some money. We'll throw some money at it. It's a problem. We don't want to deal with it.
Pandemic,
structural, whatever it may be. Just throw some money at it. It was more like $5 trillion, not just a $1 trillion. We got a $5 trillion. Maybe even 10 trillion.
We'll get a palace here, palace there.
Palace here, palace there, baby. Don't worry about it. Oh, all right. What was that? What was that previous Trump War Room post that you pulled up, Paul? Let's see here. And this is actually kind of wild to think about. I want to react to this, and a lot of people don't realize this. What's up? Okay, brother. Yeah, we'll see you in a minute. We're gonna wrap up here in a minute anyway, so maybe one or two more takes. So this kind of blew my mind. So play this and let's react to this. And this is kind of why I've been looking at a lot of the data and the facts and stuff, and it's just like it's truly unbelievable how big the second and third order effects are, because even a lot of these illegals that came in, they all came from our tax dollars. NGOs and took money, and basically it came from the taxpayer to basically fly in, hundreds of thousands of Haitians and different migrants from all over to bring them into the U.S., put them up in the Roosevelt Hotel and all these places, and that's all money the taxpayer is funding. And then they're turning around, obviously not all cause crime, but there is increase of crime that should not even be happening. And there's also the entitlements, the emergency rooms, all these different things that are being abused, and all of that eventually comes from the productive tax-paying citizen. I'm not against legal immigration. It just has to be strategic for America. It has to make sense, and we have to bring in people that we know are going to contribute and that follow the law. That's the way I think about it, and that want to integrate into the American experience.
It has to help our economy. It has to help our communities. It shouldn't come at the. It shouldn't happen because people want votes or they want
what's happening.
Impact to the census.
You're 100% right. That's exactly what's happening.
And the reality is, a lot of this is done for short-term reasons. Like it's not done to improve communities.
That was the strategy. The strategy was to import voters and import census so Democrats could control more districts. And that's
absolutely.
And that we're seeing that laid bare. Trump is exposing that, and that's really the best. It's just the facts of the reality, and communities are suffering because of it.
One thing before that is the first part of the swamp, right? You get corruption when you can manipulate votes so that you can stay in power. Then you just continue.
They're removing tens of millions of people off the voter rolls in all these counties all over California right now. Because they're being forced to, and it's just it was all bullshit. It was all. I'm curious to I'm wondering if California is actually even blue. I'm seeing videos of a traffic in LA. There's no traffic right now. There's no you look at these highways and there's nobody on the highways. What the hell's going on, right? And you see hundreds of thousands in each little county of voters being removed from the rolls. and there's no voter ID, and you just start to wonder what the fuck is going on here. Like, is California actually even a blue state? Like, you wonder.
Back in the day, it was a heavy red state.
Yeah, and when you actually look at the, like, Elon always posts this chart, and it always just shows like what states are red, and then it shows the only states that don't have voter ID, and those are all blue states. And all of the red states have voter ID. So, I don't know how Antonio Gracias blew the lid on this, and he's been a long-time Democrat, and Trump has him in Doge and the administration looking over it, and he's like, he came on the All In Pod, was like, yeah, there's tons of illegal aliens that have been voting. Like, I'm seeing the data, I'm looking it over. It's real. It's been happening. So why don't you play this clip, Paul? Let's react to this.
In total, the average illegal alien costs American taxpayers an estimated $70,000. That's each. $70,000. I think that number is even low. If you care about balancing the budget, the single most impactful step we can take is to fully reverse the Biden migration invasion. One of the worst invasions we've ever had. We've never had an invasion like this. We've had invasions, but we've taken care of them. We've never had an invasion like this, and it's with us. And we have some very bad people out there looking to do big harm. That's why the one big, beautiful bill includes funding for 3,000 new Border Patrol officers and 10,000 new ICE agents. And I've gotten to know the Border Patrol and ICE very well. Unlike Kamala, she was the border czar, but she never saw the border. She never made one phone call. She was some border czar. She would have been some president. Probably would have been slightly better than Biden, though. In total, the average illegal alien costs American taxpayers
$70,000 per American.
Wild.
The average one cost. I mean, and I bet that's a low estimate because you're not taking into all these other things into account. Like second and third order, like hospital expenses. If somebody walks into an emergency room, I've heard doctors say that like 99% of the people who don't pay are like illegal aliens that come into emergency rooms and stuff that they never collect, right? Which, basically is why the costs are so much higher for the average person, right? Yeah. They're taking just all sorts of different. Like especially California is like doing their little Medi-Cal thing where they take the government money and then they redistribute it to all the illegal aliens through their own special state Medi-Cal program. Just takes Medicaid and Medicare money. So I mean, it's just a massive grift, of what's occurring. Somebody here says most California is red. Yeah, I don't know. LOL. So who knows? Farmers, et cetera. The cities are the blue areas. Yeah, cities are always the blue areas, but. The question is, when you remove all of the illegal aliens and all of the illegal voters and all the fake voters and all the non-photo ID, when you really get all of that removed, how much support do they actually have? Like, because we can't audit, we can't take a look at it. They just claim, oh yeah, it's all above board, even though there's no voter ID or anything. Like it's all being run well. Who knows? You hear about MTG bill proposal backed by DJT. I have not heard about that. B&B. So, but maybe you can post about it. Paul, can you find that?
What's her name?
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie, yeah.
Yeah, does she have a bill that we need to take a look at?
I heard her on a podcast kind of talking about this. She was mentioning how the census apparently just counts people.
Yeah, that's a big part of this.
Not citizens.
Huge part of this.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Huge part of this.
Yeah.
That's a whole part of the
obviously
strategy.
Being exploited.
You would swing
that's why
a bunch of counties.
That's why all these illegal aliens are were basically took taxpayer money, funded the NGOs, and then these or NGOs got billions of dollars from taxpayers, and that's why they were taking 100,000 migrants from Haiti and 100,000 migrants from Venezuela and Tren de Aragua. That's why we're dropping all these people in these different counties, especially it's happening in Pennsylvania, a lot of swing states. Yep. I mean, it was very strategic. They put when this whole thing about eating the cats or whatever, that was like in some Detroit city or some place like in Ohio, which is like a kind of a purple state. So they're playing games. They're trying to figure out a way. And then all those people, whether illegal or not, are counted for the census, which is how they apportion seats. Yeah. So it should be obviously a no-brainer that if you are an illegal alien, you should not be counted toward the census total, right? Like you should not count towards the governmental rights of getting those house seats. That's absolutely fucking ridiculous, and it needs to stop. And that is how they're playing these games. So if Trump administration, this is why, like to me, this is one of the most important things because if either like the one guy said, it's either like nationalists or you've got fucking communists like Zohran Mamdani doing this crazy great replacement shit, this fucking WEF shit. This is what this is, right? It's they're trying. It's the great replacement theory. So to me, this is the more important issue. one of the most important issues is solving this problem to have fair elections, fair votes, because it really does guide the country for the next 4 years. And the amount of suffering that's caused when capital is misallocated, and you've got millions of families that can't afford things because we've got total mismanagement and communism destroying. I mean, look what happened in Russia and Germany with the Nazis, and with what Stalin did, the genocides that occurred when you've got communist kind of things happening, right? So these are just a prime example of that. Oh, look who decided to show up right as we're about to close up. God damn it, Kyle. All right, you won't even come on. You want to say hi? Now he's gonna sit down. We'll let him slide in. Slide a day late and a dollar short, but we'll let him slide in.
Good to see you, dude.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Getting dirty. It's been a day.
It's all good. We'll let you slide. So yeah, I mean, I think that I'm not too sure about this, but about the MTG bill, but maybe an amendment or something.
It's basically changing how the census is done so that illegal immigrants are not counted in the census, which I think makes sense. I mean,
you can maybe count them, but not. They shouldn't count towards House apportioned seats. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So let's see. My No Tax on Home Sales Act eliminates federal capital gains tax on home sales. You earned it. You should keep it. It's a good idea. All right. Why don't we move along? Why don't we do one more take, and I'm going to wrap this up here. Maybe we'll let Kyle weigh in on one take. Let's see here. What do we got here?
I'm assuming you guys already talked about the Genius bill.
That's from yesterday, Paul. Can you go back up to the top? Maybe we'll see. This is from last episode. We did a lot of those takes. Let's see. Scroll down a little bit. I'll tell you. We'll grab the last one. Keep going. Keep going. We talked about that one. So this is an interesting one. Yeah, we can play this clip from. So basically, after taxpayer money is finally been removed from a lot of these NGOs, it looks like Bill Gates and Microsoft stepping up to be the new USAID. Mike Benz exposes how Gates' $200 billion foundation grants fund censorship to shield his pharma empire and crush dissent. Funds 12 out of 26 NGOs that threatened Elon Musk after Twitter buyout. Authored book pushing internet censorship, mirroring CIA State Department democracy talk. Microsoft backs NewsGuard, a blacklist tool run by ex-CIA, NSA, DHS, NATO heads targeting pro-Trump sites to kill revenue, all to crush populism, safeguard China ties, and block economic nationalism. Mike Benz, we just called that Operation Mockingbird in the 1950s and 70s. This is that on 1,000 times steroids. How long is this clip of him talking? Maybe we can play this.
I think it's like 2 minutes.
All right,
oh, wow. It's actually 6 minutes. But you want to just listen to like a minute?
Yeah, we'll listen to the first minute.
Okay, cool.
And we'll let Kyle chime in here with the take because he hasn't got to talk yet.
Just recently, Bill Gates announced that he will be spending $200 billion over the next 20 years on Gates Foundation grants. So $200 billion. So the Gates Foundation is basically stepping up to become the new big daddy USAID for all these issues. And the Gates Foundation funds a huge amount of this censorship work. All that stuff about COVID censorship, well, all that is a huge threat to Gavi and to all of the pharmaceutical companies that Bill Gates owns or has huge equity investments in. And so the Gates Foundation is sort of becoming now this big floating USAID. I mean, $200 billion is just a huge amount to think about. I mean,
pause this for a second.
USAID is a.
So I know there's tons of people who gave Bill Gates money for his foundation, obviously thinking that they were going to be doing like charity work, not like advocating for internet censorship. So hopefully a lot of those people will speak up, like, the Warren Buffetts of the world and people like that. He's got a lot of different capitalists who've given him money. So hopefully they come to him and say, hey, we don't want to be a part of this fucking bullshit. We thought you were going to build farms and wells and shit for people in Africa, not fucking, spend billions of dollars on NGOs, censoring the internet. Kyle, why don't you take us away here? Give us your take.
Well, I've got a couple
before
of
you start your NGO.
I've got a couple thoughts on that. One, because this is now a private citizen.
Sorry. Okay, actually, continue. Jeff, could you slide a little to the left, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Because this is a private citizen funding these NGOs now, even though it's through his charity, do they have the same protection that USAID was giving to everyone? 2, Bill Gates will potentially eventually run out of money because people will stop donating, and so they don't have the unlimited money printer of the U.S. government. And 3, if some of these NGOs are proven to be operating illegally, does Bill Gates and the foundation face any liability? And can people go and sue that and try and put the private entity out of operation?
Very interesting points. And I have a final. Anybody else have any final thoughts on this before I ask Kyle my final question of the day?
Well, he mentioned
I'm afraid.
Mockingbird, right? Operation Mockingbird. That was
That was
in
like a
Cuba.
CIA type of like covert op from the 50s and 70s that has been unclassified, I guess.
That wasn't the one where the USAID brought in like a social, like a Twitter type.
No, that's
social-
Operation My Name is Jeff. And they just rolled that one out, but we caught him in real time. We caught him in real time on that one.
We talked about it before. I forget what it was called, but I think it was Operation Mockingbird, where they used like a social media app, kind of like a Twitter in Cuba, to kind of get the people's attention, and then to start to get them to bicker back and forth.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they didn't call it Mockingbird. It had another name for the
Mockingbird
other
is some other one, yeah.
Not Bluebird.
Yeah, but there was a thing in
Yeah.
Cuba where they launched a social media site, the X clone or something, essentially.
Yeah, USAID is the one that did that.
Yeah.
And then they did the whole the money transfer off the islands or whatever. So it was never really USAID. It was other. But that it's just
Well, they put it through shell corporations and
Yeah,
whatnot.
Play these little games.
this doesn't. I mean, it seems like they're just taking over that part of that brokering of the deal. That
Yeah, I'm sure they're trying to
essentially
do it
just-
for the the short term until they can get themselves back in power, and then just spin it through the government again. Because Bill Gates isn't stupid; he doesn't want to spend his own money, but he wants to keep what their operations going. So he'll probably front it, trying to hope to get back to the golden goose.
Yeah.
Kyle, my final question for you before we close out here. How do you feel about the Trump presidency so far, and what issues are most important to you? And do you feel like they've been answered, resolved?
Mixed bag. There's some things that he's done that I've liked. There's some things that I'm disappointed in him in. Most important thing would just be fraud in the government spending. They had that big Medicare arrest. That
That's
they
what I was
announced.
talking about. Yeah,
right,
that's a
right.
big
So
one.
all for that.
Some heads are rolling. Yeah,
Exactly. I'm good. Happy with that. Hopefully they're doing the same with Social Security. You know, they had the 2 million dead people that were 150 years old or something still getting benefits. Disappointed that they still say, "Oh no, Epstein did nothing wrong."
Okay,
And so it's like
up there.
It's the I don't remember what author said this, but it was they're lying to us. We know they're lying to us. They know we know
They
lying
know
to
they
us.
know they're still lying to
but they're
us.
still lying, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I can't interpret that any other way than that. Because
We had a big segment about that today before you got here, so that was thoroughly unpacked.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what your priorities were with the Trump administration, kind of what your thoughts were without having access to what we talked about before. So just interesting to hear. Obviously, not the most important thing, but it's up there on your list then if you bring it up. So because on my list, like obviously I think it's important, but it's like way far down my list of like priorities from the administration personally.
Yeah, and I'm happy that he's standing firm on immigration. He's getting all of the legal immigrants out, especially the criminal ones, and it's amazing, and not in a good way. It's just I'm awed by the fact that Democrats are saying, "Oh no, we can't get rid of illegal criminals."
Well, they know.
trafficking
I mean, we talked about that as well. The whole weed farm bust, the whole thing. There's all the mainstream media is like, ICE raids a farm, and it's really just like a bunch of it's illegal underage children who are working on a weed farm. Like that's the real story.
And Democrats are like they're shooting children, and no one's saying why are undocumented children doing slave labor
On
in
a
an
fucking
illegal
weed farm.
an illegal drug farm.
Like you just can't make up the
ask
absurdity
one
of
more
the
question.
you can't
Come
like
on,
just
like,
make
go a
up the
little deeper.
absurdity of the situation.
Right,
Like
so-
that's so like to me those are like that's like what we're dealing with. Like that's the enemy. Like so like I'm focused on that, right? Like of course I think it's of course I want transparency about what happened on Epstein Island 20 years ago with these fucking pedophiles, and I want these people exposed. Of course I want that. It's just not on like the forefront of like things that like matter so much that affect hundreds of millions of people's lives on a daily basis. That's kind of the way I think about it.
It's almost like I only have so much capacity to be outraged about various things because I am outraged by that because all right, somebody was able to get Donald Trump, billionaire president, to shift on his campaign promises and say, "Oh, this isn't happening," when no one believes him, and so we're all like, "That's a major blow to his reputation."
We're gonna have to see if
trustworthiness.
apparently Bongino and Cash are not happy. Bongino might resign. We're gonna find out we're gonna see what's going on. we're gonna see what's going on. But on that note, guys, I'm gonna wrap up this episode. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. It's been a hell of an episode, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you guys. Like, subscribe, follow. I think I said that right. We're here on X. Have a good one.
The runway.